goals, dreams and goals, dreams and goals. Get results.
So Derek's going to share some of his story. So again, if we could, let's give him a welcome. Flew all the way in here from Florida. Greg, stand up. Stand up, Greg. Yeah. Oh, there we go. We got a little more. Yeah. There we go. Woo. Welcome in. All right, so Derik, if you can, give us a little about who you are, man, where you came from. Let's go way back. Let's go way back to the beginning, where you're from, how you grew up.
Yeah, I came from a very rich family and everything was given to me.
Hell yeah.
How inspiring is that? Not quite the case with me though. So I joke because it's not a pretty story. I always like to kind of break the ice with that. You know, some people say they come from a silver spoon. I like to joke that I come from a spork. Definitely not a
Plastic?
Spork. That's the plastic fork and spoon. No, we're not. We were in a blue collar family. We were a no collar family. So born and raised in the smallest town, the smallest state in Rhode Island. Single mom. Got remarried when I was about 4 years old. Father not in the picture, not because he wasn't a good man, but because in Rhode Island in 1978, a long time ago, 45, old man. Rights for fathers were just a little different. So she remarried, had my sister, and the man that she married was one of the most horrific human beings you could ever imagine in your life. And so for the better part of 8 to 9 years, my mom, myself, and I were horrifically abused in every sense of the word. Physically, mentally, some of the most horrific things you could ever imagine. But what that made me was incredibly strong. And so as I tell the story, I don't tell it as a victim, because it really did shape the foundation of the man that I later became. But there's always a path between the bottom and the top, and man, mine was one hell of a ride that was both riddled with success, failure. There was a period of time where I felt really bad for myself, thought the world owed me everything. But then I, in reflection, looked at what I had achieved as that perceived victim, and it wasn't very much. And so I kind of flipped that switch. So that's, in a few words, where I came from.
And I've felt that same way, right? And I think a lot of us have, where you feel like you're owed something. It's entitlement, right? And you feel like everybody else, you like to compare your worst days to other people's best days and vice versa, right? Like I like to say, man, I can't believe this guy has all this, but you don't know what else he has. And I'm comparing my worst to his best and vice versa. We tend to improve, we say, well, look what I did today and look what he didn't do. For you, what was the turning point and how did you overcome feeling that entitlement? Like, was there a moment or were there things that you took to get over that?
Yeah, and this might come across as disingenuous, but trust me when I tell you, it's actually very, very accurate. In my early teens, I was that guy that inside felt I was special simply because I was still standing. Now, in some way, I guess you could argue that was somewhat true, but I stood on it in a way that I thought the world owed me everything. And the more I stood on top of that in my subconscious, the lower I went and the less I was becoming as a young man. And so I quite literally woke up one day at about 15 or 16 years old and said, no more. Like, I literally made that decision, and it wasn't because I read a self-help book, it wasn't because I went to a goddamn seminar, it wasn't because I was the smartest guy in the room, because I rarely ever am, and probably in this case, certainly not the smartest man in the room, but I'm very good at looking inside of myself and recognizing the things that are not working. And at that point in my life, nothing was working for me. Nothing. So all of the things that I dreamed about being as a little boy, the man that I wanted to grow into, which was a man that would protect the boy that I needed as a young man, that's what drove me to change everything.
I love that. And then, because I think we all struggle with that, right? Do you still struggle with that today at times? Like, do you still have that? And if you don't, what are some of the things when you become, because I know for me and people in this room, when you go to that next level, there's a new set of problems, right? Mm-hmm. When you grow, and it's tough. What are some of the problems? If you still struggle with that today, but if not, what are like some of the things you struggle with today for where you're at?
I mean, look, the struggle doesn't ever go away. The biggest battle in life is always with the one in the mirror. And as you start to take more risks, you start to build the confidence that allows you to go to that next level. But as you said, there's always another level. So I wouldn't describe what I go through as a struggle, because that would be disingenuous considering where I am. But I do recognize that on a daily basis, I like the word, I remind myself where, excuse my language, where the fuck I came from. And that is a really powerful thing that I do, honestly, I wouldn't say daily, but on a weekly basis. And that drives how I act in situations. It drives my appreciation for the life that a lot of people that are, I would consider my peer, take for granted. It drives how I treat the people that work for me, because in 25 years and thousands of employees, no one has ever worked for me. They all work with me. And I think that's a really important part of the journey that you are on and that I continue to be on.
How do you keep that? And there's a lot of young leaders in here and people that inspire to be leaders, but when you reach success, you know, you get people coming at you to, oh, you're this, you're that, you're great, and everybody wants a piece of your shit, right? Like people want a piece of the success. How do you, and how would you, you know, advice for people in the room when you start tasting a little bit of success, whether it be with money, whether it be with fame, whatever it is, right? You have the opportunity. How do you stay grounded in that? Because it's easy to say like, hey, like I have that motto, these guys work for them, they don't work for me, right? And I believe that. But how do you stay grounded in that? Are there things that you can do to stay humble when you reach that level of success?
That's a great question. And I'm very transparent. And so at a very young age, I became very successful financially. Wasn't successful as a man in my early age, and we can visit that because there is a vast
off the record stories?
No, not at all. I mean, there's a vast difference between being financially successful and being successful as a person. Massive difference.
Yeah.
And so in my early 20s, because I came from such absence of anything that looked like success, all I knew success was what I saw on TV, which was money, cars, partying. And so that's exactly what I did. I wasted more money that I am ashamed to say. So when I think it's important to recognize, and I don't think enough people talk about the stuff that they did wrong, because how dare you stand up and give advice if you're saying that you never went through the struggles, or you didn't make the mistakes, or you didn't go to a club and buy the entire bar of drinks because you thought it was cool, or bought a $200,000 car when you had $50,000 in the bank. Like, you do those things. You just do. It's a part of growing up. And I would love to sit here and tell the guys that are on the verge. Hello?
Hold on. Here.
Are on the verge of breaking through, not to do it. But I know one thing to be true: if roles were reversed and someone was telling me, I probably would do it. So I encourage you to have a lot of fun and celebrate your success. But to tie it back, remember one really important thing: the second you start believing or drinking your own Kool-Aid is the time that everything you've earned and you're so proud of will evaporate. And be careful of people's opinion that you take to heart. And again, I did it wrong. All the people, all the admiration that I wanted my whole life, it was all bullshit. Everybody was there for the dollar, everyone was pumping me up, and I bought it. And all it did was expose my weaknesses, and I got taken. And so, again, it's more of a cautionary tale than advice, because you do go through it on the way up.
I feel like we all have that, people that are successful have and maybe it's not a high level of success, but it is for them, right? I felt like I did. And it's almost that rise, the fall of the phoenix. And you talked about having success, wealth at a young age, and it's easy to talk about success with wealth, and I love what you tied in about becoming the person. I firmly believe that it's about becoming the person. For the young cats in the room, how important is it to be for your finance? Let's just talk finances, right? We all want to make money. Let's be honest. How important is it for you to discover not only who you are, but who you want to be? How much does that tie into your finances and your success?
So I don't think I actually answered that. I'm 45 now. I don't think I answered it until I was 39 years old, almost 40. And I'm not discouraging, because we're all entrepreneurs. We're all here to earn. Let me say that very clearly. And I still drive every day for more. But when that's all you're driving for, you will end up, like me, at almost 40 years old, divorced, in a massive home. I know this sounds great, part of it. More cars than I could ever dream of, more money in the bank than any one man deserves, during COVID. And I looked around, alone, in this big goddamn house, and I was miserable. absolutely miserable. Now, I know some guys are out there like, you know what, I'll still take all that stuff. But the point of this is, if you, on your way up, if you're pursuing more than just wealth, again, I know this sounds cliche, but what I really mean is pursue meaningful relationships along with your pursuit of money. Be really cognizant of who it is you have by your side, who you're driving with towards that goal, whether that's a partner, a wife, a business partner, a friend, whatever that is. And by the way, sometimes you're a lone wolf, but you can still surround yourself by quality people. Sounds easier than it is. It'd be something that I would make the notation on a daily basis to be self-checking who the people are around you and what they add to your life and what you add to their life.
And tying it into the fall of Phoenix, you just touched on it, divorce, going through it, and I'm assuming there was probably some business struggles during that, right? When you, at 40, woke up all alone, mm-hmm. What were some of the mistakes that you made besides obviously falling for the Kool-Aid? What were some of the mistakes that we could learn from to try to avoid, right? I feel like that's the key. Like you got to touch the hot plate to know that it's hot, but if somebody can coach you, mentor you on, hey, watch out because that plate is hot, it might help you avoid it or be prepared. Are there some things and mistakes you made during that journey that you could share that could help people along with their journey?
I would say the biggest mistakes I made on my journey, which may or may not be applicable, is I tried to earn money to buy people's love. And for some of you, that may immediately trigger and hit for you, and for some of you, may not understand it yet, but I promise you, as you start to make money, it will, because it feels really good. It feels really good to help the people that you think deserve it, and it feels really good to stand up and be that guy that's doing it. And if we're honest, it's actually more of that most often.
Pretty fun.
But for me, with my family, I was the first in both sides of my family to do anything even close. And so I just gave and gave and gave. And the more I gave, the lower they went. The lower they went, the more they needed. So the more I gave. And then you always come to a point with that where you look around and you go, man, I've given everything I can imagine, money, homes, cars, support, and they're just lower and lower and lower. And then you go, well, I just have to stop. Maybe that will help. And then all of the people that you've given so much to, all of a sudden turn on you. And so for me, that was one of the hardest lessons in life. It's not to say that now I don't give money to people, but I try to give more of myself, which honestly, in reflection, a part of also me just giving money was it was easier and quicker than actually pouring myself into people.
It becomes a transaction opposed to the relationship. So what do you, let's fast forward now to what you're doing now, right?
Yep.
How many companies you have, what you do, how you help companies, and you can even tie that into how you can help RR and kind of the plan to grow and continue, obviously private equity deal, but beyond that.
Sure. So leading up to COVID, I had, I would say we had 19 or 20 companies. I sold all of my companies just after COVID during that frenzy where everybody was rich. Government was giving out stimulus checks. You could get loans for nothing. Hey. Everybody was rich,
Got
right?
that stimulus.
Hey, it stimulated, my account for sure. But it allowed me to sell all my companies for more than they were worth. And that's something I really do pride myself on, is selling companies that are more than they're worth. But I did that because I knew it just didn't feel right. And so stockpile cash, wait for the inevitable other side of the coin, so to speak. And so then starting in January of this year, not that we weren't still an operating core company, which is my umbrella company, 3F Management, but between January and now June 1, we've acquired 16 companies of very meaningful size and shape. We've added 7 C-suite back to our holding company, and we've got hundreds and hundreds of people that work with us. I have, other than building companies, which I've built 32 to date, some of them we've driven towards becoming publicly traded companies, most of them privately held, because much like my friend here, I don't like to have a boss, and when you're a publicly traded company, you have thousands of bosses.
Fuck those guys. Love you all.
We're not going that direction. Besides that, I'm often called into Fortune 500 companies for things like board deadlocks, contract negotiations, scaling companies. In a word, I'm a hustler from day one. And so I want to ask something after hearing that, because I always feel somewhat, after you hearing the things that I've done, just quick raise of hands. Who in here thinks, I'm going to ask the question, book smart or street smart? Who in here thinks the things that I have done at the Fortune 500 level, am I more street smart or book smart? And I think that's a really important...
That's a good raise of hands, by the way.
I just let it go.
Yeah, good
That's
raise
a
of
street
hands.
smart answer right there. That is
Shout it
a
out.
street smart
With it.
answer. And so I say that immediately after saying all of the things that I've done, because I actually don't think, in fact, I take that back. I know that there's not that much special about me from a book smart standpoint. I am, like I said, in a word, a hustler. I'm street smart. I'm not afraid to take a chance. I'm not afraid to go that extra mile. I'm not afraid to stand up in adversity and take everything that I knew I deserved as a little boy. And that has been the sole factor in difference between being where I was and where I am today, and not a goddamn thing more.
Love that. With the adversity, I think we all go through the adversity. And for me, the word of this meeting was going to be adversity. I go through a lot of it. I know a lot of you go through a lot of it, right? And we share it, and you share it with me. And I always have this thought that the more adversity you go through and you're being challenged is because you're going to the next leg up. And the reason it feels like a greater adversity or a greater challenge is because you're not used to it. Because you're struggling with who you used to be, but you're struggling with not quite who you are yet. And it's a really, really lonely place, and you feel all alone, and then you get hit with a problem, and it feels like the end of the world. But I've always felt like the brightest lights shine after the darkest moments. And if you can weather that storm, no pun intended, and you can get through the adversity, it's going to be the best you've ever had on the other side of it. And so for you, with a ton of adversity, I mean, you grew up in a struggled household, know all about that. How have you been able to weather so much adversity and get through the other side?
Well, I think everything comes from my childhood. But I told the story the other day, and I really love this story because it actually sums up that question really, really concisely, I believe. I'm at the gym working out in Bonita Springs, Florida. And there's everyone that goes to the gym. There's a bunch of guys. There's the mayor of the gym. There's the guy that does this, right? And there's a bunch of younger kids that come in that recognize me from social media, and I love to pour into these young kids. And so I had not met this kid. His name was Kyle. He came up to me and he said, "Mr. Fay," very humbly, he goes, I love everything that I've seen you do. And he goes, "You know what? Like you, I have no one that supports me. No one thinks I'm going to be anything." And he goes, "I really connect with your story from when you were a kid." He goes, "I got to ask you, how did you do it without anybody? How did you do it without anybody caring or thinking you could ever do it?" And I looked at him and I said, "I don't know how to tell you this, kid. I actually did have someone that always believed in me." And I looked at him and it was like I punched him in the stomach. All the air just out of him, put his head down. And I said, "Hey, pick your head up." He said, "You know who that person was?" And he shook his head. And I said, "The person that always knew that this Derik that you see was going to be here, the person that picked me up when I was at my lowest, that was me." And he started smiling. And so the answer is, I don't know where that strength comes from, but I do know emphatically that it is within every single one of us. And the day that we wake up and say no more, and say that I'm taking everything that little voice that we don't even want to admit to ourselves sometimes, the little voice we don't want to tell our wife, or like the story you told you didn't want to give her that 200,000, when you shake that shit off, your whole life changes.
100%. How did you, been a hustle from day one? My hustle was illegal coming up day one, but it was still a hustle. I should have known I was an entrepreneur when I was young, but when did you figure out you were an entrepreneur, and when did your entrepreneur journey start? Because for all of us, we're all entrepreneurs, right? People feel like, oh, I work for RR, but you do, but we're 1099, and look, we don't eat unless we kill it. And people, they don't understand, like, what we do is hard. We might work for 3 to 6 months for the deal to fall through, and we don't get paid, right? So everybody in this room is an entrepreneur. They're building their own brand. When did you know you're an entrepreneur, and what was your first kind of entrepreneurial thing you did?
I've got 2 stories if we've got time.
We got time. We got time today.
So I'm going to tell you the first time. I'm going to talk about I think in life we all have light bulb moments. I had one in my 20s, had one in my 30s, had one in my 40s. I sure as hope to keep having them. But my first real light bulb moment that changed the trajectory of my life was I've been a gym guy my whole life, so I'm working out in the gym. I went to the gym to find all of the things that I didn't have: strength, security, brotherhood, and I found all of them there. And so that meant everything to me. So I'm 12 years old at a gym in Wakefield, Rhode Island. And back then, gyms would sell, you know, a $10 lifetime membership to all their members and then close down overnight just to get that cash in. So the guy, it's so meaningful to me. He's laughing. It's like, yeah, we did that too. I was in the gym industry, so I know. His name was Donnie Smith, came to me because I was the young kid in the gym. Like now I'm pouring into the young kids in the gym. And he says, listen, D, I hate to tell you this, but we're closing down. And I just, you know, I can remember it. I went white. And I'm like, well, why? And he said, well, we're behind a couple months on rent and we just haven't got the cash. And so I remember leaving and thinking, okay, who is the richest man that I know? And so I pictured the guy that used to drive to the gym in a 3 Series BMW, and I said, that guy's rich. So I went and found him the next day at the gym, and I said, hey, the gym's closing down. And he's like, well, why? And I said, well, he said he couldn't pay rent a couple of months. He said, well, how much? So I went and found out. The guy said, I'll give him the cash. Went back to Donnie and said, hey, great news. I've saved the gym. You don't have to close down. And he looked at me and he goes, you know what? Because you did that, you never have to pay a gym membership again. You can have a juice, you can have a shirt, whatever you want. Now that seems trivial, but my little brain said, okay, so wait, if somebody has something and needs something and I can find someone that has what they need and connect them, I get something for me. And in that moment, what I called myself 3 years later, I called myself at 15 and a half, 16, an intermediary venture capitalist. Sounds very impressive, right? Actually doesn't exist. Made the shit up because it sounded. I didn't even know what a venture capitalist was.
Did you have it on a business card? Be honest.
Yeah, it was pretty sketchy. But it worked. And so, and believe it or not, at like 16 years old, I was brokering these little deals, you know, $100 here, some arbitrage of, cards here. But it started to grow as I perfected my process. And then it was $1,000, then it was $10,000, then it was $100,000, and then it was millions. And then I dropped the intermediary and just became a venture capitalist. So that was my light bulb moment when I realized that what I wanted to be. But the moment where I understood that I was going to be that, and it wasn't a want, is a story that I told in the back of the room. Because my man, there you go, raise your hand. Because he asked me to tell the story, so forgive me for sharing it again.
So just for the record, when you said juice, Adam assumed testosterone. He just like, well, test win? And, oh no, organic juice, Adam. All natural.
So as I progressed, I'll admit this now, I wouldn't have admitted it then. I acted as if I had all this confidence. I acted as if I knew who I was. I acted as if I was unfucking stoppable. And by all accounts, it appeared as if I was. But until you actually believe your own stuff, you're not really. There's always a ceiling on it. And so I moved to Florida, 22 years old, young and dumb, and really overconfident. One might even say a bit of a douchebag, for sure. I apologize for the language. But nevertheless, 22, I get there, I want to meet everybody. I know that shaking hands and meeting people is going to be what changes my life, and it's a fact still today. And so I go about my business, and I meet the 2 top realtors in Southwest Florida. They work for the largest real estate company at the time, WCI. Get myself invited to lunch the next day. Put on my best suit, horrible, probably paid $150 for it. So we're on our way to lunch, and they get a phone call. And they say, Derik, do you mind if we make a quick stop? And I say, absolutely not. We pull into a low-income housing unit, about 320, 350 units, and a big REIT had just purchased this. And they were grouping together all the top realtors, and they were saying, how many can you sell? How many can you sell? We're going to convert them from low income to high. And they're going to make about $150,000 per unit, so a very nice, quick payday. So we get in the car and I ask if they have any interest in the project, and they said, we don't give a shit about this. We sell $10, $20 million homes in Naples. We don't care. Yeah. We did it out of courtesy. So go to lunch, come home. I do some research. In 2002, if you were a low-income tenant and they were converting your home or your apartment to high, above the median income level, then you had first right of refusal to buy that unit. So now, what do? In that case, is there an opportunity that you see? Well, I did. So I drafted letters to every one of the tenants and said, great news, everybody. You may not know this, but your unit is going to be converted to a high value condominium, and you have first right of refusal. If you have the ability, I suggest you buy that unit. If you don't, you assign me your rights, I will give you $1,000 to relocate. Now some time goes by, I get 252 of the units assigning me their rights. The REIT is losing their mind. We're going to sue you, you can't do this. And every time they said it, I just said, where should I wire the money? Now, let's be clear, I couldn't have wired the money. Well, if they had just said wire the money, the deal would have been dead. But their blindness and my speed to opportunity and my persistence closed the deal. So they wired me $5 million. It cost me $70 to courier the letters, and I did it in 22 or 23 days. So that's a definition of recognizing opportunity, speed to action, maybe being a little dumb and ignorant, but just going for it in life. And that's the street smarts that changed my life.
$5 million. That's awesome. What is now, you've gone through a few transactions on companies you sold. Part of it not, and we can tie this into RR. What is the largest transactions that you've been a part of, and how many transactions have you been a part of?
So my largest wholly owned transaction, meaning I owned 100% of the company, we exited at $52.2 million. That was in 2019. Now that company, I sold to Town Sports International, one of the largest in the game back then, Boston Sports Club, New York Sports Club, Philadelphia Sports Club. Sold it 6 months before COVID, $52.2 million, all cash transaction. You guys know what happened after that. COVID came, decimated everything. They then tried to close the locations, so I took back half of the assets that I had sold them for $0. I rebranded that and stabilized it for a year and sold it again. So that was my largest transaction as an individual 100% owner. My largest exit transaction as a partner, 40% or more, was 9 figures, right around $217 million, $212 million, something in that range. Not all for me, but certainly a nice bite of the apple. And the largest transactions I've been a part of as a group is just over 10 figures. In my company, 3F Management, we do mergers and acquisitions, leverage buyouts, roll-ups. We've done $1.7 or $1.8 billion in roll-ups and leverage buyouts over the past 17 or 18 months.
That's awesome. And so you guys, obviously, there's what, 30 people in here that are stockholding partners, if not more, and you're listening to someone that's invested in a part of RR, and he's talking about 50 million, 250 million. He's talking about 10 figures. We're talking about multiple figures, multiple commas. This is why we're partnering with Derik, because he brings this to the table. Now, just because we get this deal done, and you can talk a little bit about this, some of the things you've seen and some of the stuff we can do after we get a deal done, because there's the fear of like, well, you guys sell and I don't have a job, or what do I do? It's none of that, right? Everybody's still going to be here. All of us are still going to be here. But what are some of the things we can do for the next run and some of your plans to help us grow to get the brand out there?
First, let's talk about why I think Results Roofing is so special. This time, please raise your hands. By a show of hands, and keep them up or put them down if when I say these names you don't know the people. Who in this room knows Dustin? Who in this room knows Duke? Kevin? Miller? Now, go ahead, put them down. I don't know if I can explain to you how rare that is. This is a large company that trajectory is, can I speak real numbers?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so this is already a 9-figure company that private equity firms are drooling over. This will be, after our first transaction, the second transaction in my summation will be a 400 to 500 million minimum transaction, and you still have the ownership group meeting with you on a regular basis, going out on roofs, spending their time and effort, and it's not bullshit. Like, I haven't been a part of this group anywhere near, obviously, as long as you, but I've been in the game long enough to know bullshit when I see it. And I know enough when Dustin texts me about how proud he is of you guys, when I don't even know you guys. That is something that I rarely ever see, and it's exactly what it takes for a company to sustain growth. The measure of a company's success long-term, in my opinion, is not how far the ownership group will go for profits, but it's how far they will go for their people. And you guys have absolutely nailed that in every way that I've seen, and in some ways even that I didn't. And I've been very successful at doing exactly that in my career.
I appreciate that, and I mean, it is. You look at this team, and I think it's very humbling to work with such a great group of people, right? And it goes back to, it's not what you do, it's who you do it with, and it's who you can partner with to go to the next level, right? It's all about who can you take with you. And so, you know, for us, we're thankful to have you a part of this as well, right? We're thankful to have everyone here, and you know, right after this, we'll do questions if anyone has one for Derik. But I want to end this for you, just this part is, as an entrepreneur, and everyone's here, I think, you know, piece of advice is cliche, right? And as my friend Roger Healy, who just walked in, always says, cliches are cliches for a reason, because they're true. And that is true, right? And that's something that stuck with me. And one of my favorite quotes that stuck with me is 3 years ago. Rogers told me this. He was like, "Be you, they'll adjust." And it was "Be you, everyone else is taken." And it's something I took to heart growing this, was like, why am I trying to be like anyone else? Why do I care the way anyone else does it, right? Why not be the person that goes out there and does it like nobody else has ever done? And you're gonna catch a lot of hate along the way. You're gonna have haters, you're gonna have people that doubt you, because anything that hasn't been done, there's gonna be a lot of doubt, and rightfully so. There's a reason it hasn't been done. And so that stuck with me, and every day I always think about that. Like, who cares what anyone else thinks? Who cares what they're saying? They're just chirping. Just be you, man. And people gravitate to people that are authentic. And so for you, what's, you know, one or two pieces of advice that you can give to everybody here on their journey in life, you know, becoming that better person, entrepreneur, whatever it is?
Just so we're clear, I didn't answer your other question.
Answer that other question.
Would you like me to? Because I do think it's very important.
Yes.
Okay. I do want to talk about the pending acquisition, because I do think it's very important we do address it. The reason that this company is so valuable is because of the ownership team and because of all of you. And for that reason, that's why we're not selling the entire company. Everybody in this room is staying on for that next ride. Every single person, you did mention it before, is incredibly important. These private equity companies are, like you mentioned, going to be looking at every single one of you. So not only are your jobs not in danger, the power and the strength of this company, the trajectory that we're on, the brand recognition, the new opportunities, by doing nothing more than you're already doing, your earning capacity is already increasing. Never mind if you decide to step it up another level, or to put your foot in the pole of, I want to be potentially a part of the management. I want to go to Florida. I want to go to LA. I want to go wherever it is we're going. There's a whole nother level of opportunity. And yes, it's scary the first time you don't go through it. Now, I'll be honest, if we were selling 100% of this company, there would be concerns that would need to be addressed.
100%.
But that is not the case. We're looking at 60, 70% max, because we believe in this company as much, if not more, than you do. We're not going anywhere, and neither are you. We're going on this rocket together. And the fact that ownership is giving away shares, I don't know about you guys, my hair would be on fire to do whatever it is I have to do to get this, because let me say it again, the second transaction will be $500 million. So if you're not drooling to get a piece of that, whatever it is you got to do, and if you're not sure how to, ask the question. Ask ownership, how do I do it? What do I have to do every single day to be in a position the next time you sell, I'm getting a check?
Rhetorical? I'll answer, because I'll answer the fuck out of that. Hey, it's three things. We talk about it every day, and JT learned this lesson for 2 years. It's deals, pays the bills, social media, and hire, train, and recruit people. You have to make people better, right? You have to be able to sell. We're a sales and marketing organization, right? And there's the old, well, I'm trying. You don't try. You do or you don't. There's no try. You do it or you don't do it. And there's always an excuses. There's no excuses, there's only execution, right? And social media, it goes back to, well, I'm not really a social media guy. Neither am I. I hate it. One day when I retire, I'm deleting it all. I don't want it. I'm giving it to my kids. I'm not social media. I had to learn because the world goes to it, right? Pipe down back there, buddy. Rogers, it's not your time yet till 12. Thank you, though. And then,
If you shut down your social media, how do we get our inspirational quotes?
I will text you. I'll get them from Rogers.
He will too.
Thank you. Rogers will. He'll take it over. He's gonna acquire it in a private equity deal. And look, hire, train, recruit people is duplicating yourself, right? It's being out there to, and I really do think, like from Kobe Bryant, he said the ultimate goal at the end was to inspire others to be great, and then for them to inspire other people. And that's really where, for me, the motivation comes from. It's to inspire someone in this room to be great, and then they inspire someone else, right? It's not fun to do this alone. It's not lonely at the top. You can take a lot of people with you. I don't feel lonely at all sitting in this room, right? And they tell you that BS, it's lonely at the top. Well, yeah, if you screw people up along the way and don't take care of them, then yeah, it's going to be lonely, right? And so those are the things you have to do. And people are, well, it is so simple. You go sell free roofs. Literally, insurance is paying for it. Insurance is paying for the roof. You just have to go meet them. It's not hard. It's not complicated. We complicate it. Like we were talking about today in the workout group, urgency. Urgency. You have about another 45 days left, maybe 60, because the storm is so massive, to create urgency to get out there. To get out there and meet as many people as you can, because they're going to go with who they feel comfortable with. After about 45 to 60 days, it's going to get harder. So why would you not be out every day right now, working as much as you can, as hard as you can, and stop sitting around talking to people? Create urgency. It's like you don't pull up to a knock, you see 5 people chatting. Hey bro, leave me alone. There's word MMA, money making activities. If it's not making you money, beat it, right? That's all you should be, especially during a storm. It's the largest storm we've ever had. I told someone the other day, they're like, man, it's just, it's hard. I go, what are you waiting for? Do you think it's going to get a bigger opportunity than this? You have a chance to get stock. $4,200 per sale. I'm like, I ain't giving away any more deals. Like, sorry, $4,200, I'm keeping all my own commissions now. I'm like, that's crazy. I'm like, $4,200 to sell a roof that you didn't even sell, the insurance paid for it. Thinking you must be a glorified salesperson to walk to someone's door and say, I'm going to get the insurance to pay for this and sell them on someone else's money. It's easy. You just have to go meet the people. That's all you have to do is go meet them, right? It's super, we just overcomplicate it. And like, you have the opportunity to go out there every single day right now and accomplish this. You have the opportunity to go out there and people actually need your services. In about 60 days, it's going to be hard. I mean, man, I wish we had a storm. If we had a storm, I'd be out there every day. We get a storm and not out there every day. Oh, I got to go home early, because we talked about it earlier. If you practice like you play, then when you pray, it's like practice. And people, they don't work every day. They only work 3 to 4 hours a day. And then here's what happens. They tell, when I get a storm, I'm going to work 8, 12 hours a day. You can't. You're tired, and you don't have what it takes. And you get your teeth kicked in because you're not used to hearing all the overcoming the objections. You're not used to the adversity. You get out there and game speed's a little bit different. It's harder to go 8 hours when you've been going 2 hours. The people that are having success right now are the people that have been out all the time. They're having success. Why? They didn't start posting on social media with the storm. They've been posting for 2 years. They weren't bringing value to realtors 2 weeks ago. They were bringing value to realtors 2 years ago. They didn't just knock doors for 2 hours a day. Even during the heat, when there was no storms, they were knocking 6, 8 hours. And then what happened when a storm hit? There's no stopping them. They're used to this, and they're having success, right? And so look, if you're not where you want to be right now during the storm, it's okay. We have plenty of time. There's still stuff untouched. Who was in, Jess, you were in Arlington on Sunday, right, with a few people, sending photos of the damage. I'm like, oh my God, that's Arlington? I don't even think anyone mentioned Arlington. There is damage everywhere. There's homeowners that haven't even been talked to by a roofer. So there's plenty of opportunity out there. So if you want to know how you get more stock, that's how you do it. And create some urgency. Move fast in the day-to-day, and then have long-term patience, right? But you have to move fast every single day. There's no downtime, because you think that the downtime, you're not knocking doors because you're with all the RR people. There's another company out there knocking doors while you're standing around. And they just get to that customer first. And that customer feels some relief knowing that they're taken care of now, good or bad. And it wasn't that you weren't better, you just weren't there yet. And so that's why it's so important to get out and create that urgency while there's a storm, right? And like I said, in 60 days, it'll slow down a little bit. But then obviously social media, and recruit as many people, because it feels good hanging out with a bunch of cool people that want to work hard and win, right? And so that's why we recruit, train, develop, and that's how you get more stock. And then
2 tips for
your advice,
entrepreneurship,
yeah.
and then Q&A. I'll do it quick. It's going to be quick, 'cause it's exactly what I tell my daughters on a regular basis. If they walked in, I'd say, what are the 2 things I always tell you? Be careful what you say to yourself, because your subconscious is listening. Hear that. We all talk so negatively to ourselves. And then that goes along with that, because they always roll their eyes. And I said, if you talk the way you talk to yourself to other people, how many friends would you have? Think about that. Think about how often we put ourselves down. Last one.
Last one.
Seems like the easiest question. Every time I ask it, no one knows the answer. What do you want? My daughters go, I don't know. And then I say, well, if you don't know, who should I ask? Because trust me, if you don't answer, someone else is going to answer for you. Simple stuff, guys. This is not rocket science. It's fundamental.
If I ask my wife for dinner, that's the answer I get every single time. I don't know.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that. I always say we should open up a restaurant called I Don't Know.
No,
so that when they ask,
I Google it.
I don't know. Perfect.
Anybody have any questions? Raise your hand. Anyone?
I got one. So I think what I'm hearing a lot of is to be the best, you can't think like the rest. To be successful, right? That's a mantra I have every damn day. So you manage 17 companies. We've got entrepreneurs here. They're managing 17 projects, 17 pipelines, 17 leads. What thinking do you apply in managing those businesses and all the things that are vying for your attention at a business level? How do they and us apply that in the 17 opportunities we're chasing every day? What do you prioritize? What's most important besides like fire drills?
So for me, I prioritize the high value targets. And this may not be applicable for you guys. I prioritize the high value every day. I make sure that's my first point of action, because that's when I have the most energy and the most ability to react quickly, to be strong. And then I surround myself with people that have the skills that I don't have. Now that may not be applicable because you're not a partnership knocking doors, but it is applicable in life. And so for me, the only way that one person at my peak, that I'm managing 30 companies at the same time, can do that is that I have a very strong set of skills. And then the skills that I don't have, I don't try to pretend that I have those skills. I double down on the things that I'm really good at, and the things that I'm not good at, I either partner with someone that has those skills, or I just don't try to participate in that. Otherwise, bandwidth is a killer, because you can only be one person doing so many things at the same time.
Any other questions?
What time do you wake up?
Whenever I want.
Question.
Well, you know, I know where you're going with that, and I love this question. I think morning rituals are absolute ridiculousness. I think, you know, at my age now, it's a little bit more applicable, right? And so if I now want to get up, it's a privilege if I want to get up at 9 o'clock and I want to journal about my thoughts and I want to read a book, which I don't do any of those things, by the way. But this whole social media thing of jump in this and do that, that's all well and fine. But in my opinion, it's a privilege that I have earned. When I was a young kid, I knew about what I was doing for that day. My ass jumped out of bed with my hair on fire and I tackled the day and everything that came. And I did that with my head down for 10 days. And then I earned the ability to be able to get up when I want, have a cup of coffee in bed and answer some texts and then tackle the day. But I get up at about 7.
Sleep in.
So that's the weekend, that's about 9.
Adam, the juice is not there anymore.
So I guess my question is, so I've been in sales for probably 25 years, been in leadership for about maybe 10. One of my biggest goals this year is, you know, being a leader. I'm still fairly young in that, even though 10 years is, I'm getting better, but my big goal this year is to be the best leader that I can be for my team. And obviously you have to, and I've heard that from not just you, but many people, you have, number one rule is you have to care about your people in order to be a phenomenal leader. So I guess my question is more comment/question is, you know, obviously as far as caring about people, working for your people, what are some examples or anything that you could give to not just myself, but all of us as far as, or maybe in one of your companies that you've done for your people that impacted them or that we can do to be the best leader possible, because that's really, I want to sell at a high level,
Sure.
and I'm always working on that, but I want to get my team to match that and inspire them the best in my ability. So.
Actually, I think it's a great question. I think everybody's so caught up in grand gestures that we forget that it's nice, but it's like if you only give your spouse one card a year because it's Valentine's Day. You just kind of did it because it was a day. It didn't really mean anything. And so In fact, I'm the guy that if you give me a card, I don't read it. I only read what you wrote because I know that's what you really mean. And if it's empty, then that says a lot to me. And so, I mean, it's true.
Fuck.
It's true, right? It's true. Sorry, guys, if I outed you here, that's kind of how I feel. Yeah, so one of the things, so with that thought process, I believe it's the little things that in any given moment we all might think are small and meaningless that actually build the foundation of trust, loyalty, and a team that will believe in you. And so it was the little things that I always did where I could walk to the back of the building where I could park my car and walk directly to my office, but instead choosing every single day to park in the front, walk in the main door, say hello to every single person, say good morning, make a joke. Those are great shoes. Did you get a haircut? That doesn't look great. Look at my stupid shoes. Make connections. And I know some of you might get it and some of you might think I don't really give a shit, but I'm telling you this right now. If I did that 365 days, if I walked in every day and said, hey man, how's your day? Good? Yeah? Hey, I'll be back for this or this, and we ask questions. The first time it doesn't seem like much. After a month it might seem, wow, this is, and after a year you're thinking, this guy actually does care, because you can fake shit for a little bit, but you can't fake real forever. And so if you want your team to believe in you, you have to actually care. There is a big difference between pretending to care because you want to build your team and actually caring. It is a massive difference, and at first people don't notice the difference, but over time they do. It's not just a phrase that you say, it's not a handout that you give, it's not a statement on a wall, it's what you do day after day, every day without exception, that builds that loyalty, that builds an army that takes you to the next level.
Love that. Any other questions? Come on.
I got one. So how do you reflect on yourself to identify any strengths or / weaknesses that you have to improve yourself and to grow in person?
So for me, I have always been, and I joke about it all the time still today, I'm really good at recognizing my flaws, not always so great at acting on them, but my inclination, and I've never been anybody but myself, but I do know that entrepreneurially and in life, we all are going through a lot of very, very similar things. There's some nuances here or there, but we're all just kind of wired the same way. And so what I know to be true is that deep down, we all know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and what we're not doing. We just tend to push that shit aside because it's easier than to face the fact that the routine that you might be in, the comfort that you might have, the hard conversation you don't want to have, the relationship that's super comfortable. I don't really want to have to be single again. I know I don't really, I'm not really.
Braylon, I think you had one.
Yeah, whenever you look around and you said it was a dark time around COVID.
I would say, despite having treated everyone around me on the way up very well, that's not my words. I think, Dustin, you alluded to it a little bit, and I encourage anyone. Every person that has worked for me, I believe, would say the very same thing. But the one person I didn't treat very well was myself. Treated myself really poorly, and you wouldn't have seen it from the outside. So I made a decision that I needed to start filling the hole that I had in me with something other than frivolous things. And so I'd always been 100% equity owner of all of my companies, or almost all of them on the way up until recently. And I realized I didn't want to continue on this path of just becoming a richer version of myself. Instead, what I knew in the moments that I'm really happy is when I'm succeeding or pouring into another person. And I think that roots from the fact that I didn't have that when I was growing up.
Love that. Anyone else? Oh God. Oh, here we go.
This a good one?
Rolando, okay, this guy right here. Here we go.
He's sharp dressed.
Listen, don't fall for it.
Don't fall for it.
Okay, so I had a question for you.
Shoot.
Okay, you've seen a million different business models out there, a million different companies out there. What do you see in roofing that appeals to you want to be part of this? And if you've seen other roofing companies, what about R&R separates us? And why do you want to be part of R&R?
First of all, it's RR. It's all not R and R. That's just that. So he doesn't want to be a part of R and R. Yeah, I told you it was going to be some.
Yeah, well, you choose your words wisely there. So
Pride Month.
I mean, I'll hang out. I want to play with you. Although I'm questioning the hangout based on his reaction. Okay, so stay with me. I don't really want to be, nor do I consider myself to be in the roofing business. Weird statement. I say that whether it's a fintech. I'm not in the fintech business. I'm not in the fitness business. I am in the people business. And one of my greatest accomplishments in life, in my opinion, is I have earned the opportunity, you've heard me say this before, I have earned the opportunity to work only with people that I think are good people. I get to now decide to pass on meaningful opportunities for other opportunities, whether they're bigger or smaller, based on the people that are driving that bus. And so we may sell roofs for a living, but I don't think that's what we sell here. I think we're selling whatever it is you want for your life, and I'll go down the whole goddamn room, because your success snowballs into the success of this entire corporation, and we become one. And I keep saying the word army because I hate the word employee. I hate the word. I've never been an employee, and I really truly feel no one wants to feel that way. And I know that Dustin does not feel that way, nor do any of the other owners. I know we all feel like we're side by side leading this big, beautiful rocket to a whole nother level. So I don't know does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, you see the upside of the roofing business though, right? Insurance piece,
yeah, I mean,
construction piece, I mean.
yeah, well, look, okay, so more technical. Home services is on fire right now. Private equity, family offices, they are paying what I consider somewhat a disproportionate multiple on earnings. So this is the hottest space in the game. Right now is the exact time to strike, and that's why we're structuring at least a partial exit with a very strategic plan, both on organic growth in other states, strategic roll-ups of other smaller roofing companies to add EBITDA to our bottom line. And I don't think that, look, every company on the outside looks super sexy like a Rolls Royce, but very few, most in fact, when you open the hood, it's like either a couple hamsters or, forgive me for anyone that has a Miata, but a Miata underneath. Actually, I don't apologize. If you have a Miata, you shouldn't be embarrassed. But
Sorry, brother.
Do you have a Miata? Please tell me that's true.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that'd have been the greatest moment of my life. I've had some good ones. Oh.
He does, but he looks like a Miata guy. He looks like a Miata guy.
Okay, so incredible culture, incredible ownership team, incredible systems, incredible trajectory. The market's on fire, so we're checking every single box with perfect timing. So the money's going to pour in for all of us. Whoever is here side by side, you're going to experience more money than you ever have. That's just the truth of it. Yeah.
Anyone else? Any more questions? We probably have time for one or two more. No more?
Good.
Is that it? Oh.
So when you said when you drink your own Kool-Aid, that's when you use it all, what do you mean by that?
Confidence is an incredible and destructive thing. Confidence makes you sloppy. Overconfidence makes you sloppy. I believe it's incredibly important. You're never going to find someone more confident in themselves than me, but that is a gift I give to myself because, and I'll tell you a story. The biggest loss of my entire career came because I was overconfident. I lost $300 million in equity and $23 million in cash 2 years ago because I signed on for a project that I was the 100% owner. I was coming off some of the biggest wins of my life, and I just knew how incredible I was. I knew it, even though I preached not doing that, and then I did everything opposite of what I've always done and expected the same result by not doing it. And I delegated everything instead of being the guy in the front line, and I got kicked in the teeth, and I deserved it. I drank my Kool-Aid.
And if you want to put it in roofing, you see these people, and it happens everywhere, not just at results, but we know it. But you see them at other large organizations. They work at a company, and they feel like all their success is them, right? It's just them. It's like for a football team or a basketball team, they're like, I'm the man, right? I'm the man, it's all me. And then they go, I'm gonna go start my own. And then they realize rather quickly it's not that easy. And their confidence is their ego, right? So your ego is not your amigo. You see it all the time. I don't think that I'm the reason we're successful at all. And look, the confidence level, I I struggle with and I think a lot of successful people do, is I have like a God complex where I think I'm better than every single person that walks this earth, and there's nobody that can beat me in any competition. But at the same time, I'm the most insecure person that you meet, that I think everybody is working harder than me and everyone's coming to take everything I have, and I'm scared to death that if I don't do one thing, I'm gonna lose it all. And I struggle with that every single freaking day. It's like, it just eats away at me, right? And so, but I don't think I'm successful. I laugh. It's like I say, I'm like, dude, Kevin, if I could do what Kevin did, right? And then Kevin will be like, well, if I could do what you did, I'm amazed at what some of you do, right? I don't think I'm the reason we're successful at all, right? I don't say, well, I could do this on my own. And people wonder why. When I structured Results Roofing, I was 100% owner, right? And everybody just go on and own it on your own. And I went out and found the best person at the time that I knew that could keep me grounded. That was Jason Miller. And Jason was working another job. The reason that I decided Jason was because all the best success I had in my life, in my career, was when I worked with Jason. So did I think I was better than Jason? I absolutely did. I thought he didn't have what I had, but here's what I knew he did have. He brought out the best in me. And so I partnered with him. I don't know shit about financing. Let's get Kevin. Right? So I went out and gave someone from day one that I knew was not, here's the funny part. These guys were not going to step foot into the organization for 2 years. But I gave them equity in my company, even though I was going to be running the day-to-day. Why? Because I planned on where I was going, not where I was. Funny story about Duke, I actually hated Duke's existence. If you ever watch Billy Madison and there's a kill list, he was on mine. I swear to God. I was like, if I ever see this dude in the street, it's on site. Like, you know that church where they go when you see the guy in church and he swings on them? It was that. Hey, man, but you know what I appreciated?
He's not laughing.
He's laughing, no, because he knows the story. Here's the deal, though. I am such a competitor. Like, I want to compete, and I want to take your soul, and I want you to rethink your life's choices. And I want to beat you at every single thing. And I have no off switch to that, and I don't apologize for it. Here's the deal. I also, when you're against me, and we're going to compete. But guess what? I want those dudes on my team. And as soon as you come to my team, and fuck it, bro, welcome. Now I don't have to compete against a guy like that, because the only reason I didn't like him was because he was complete opposite of me. And so everything that I was great at, he wasn't, but he was phenomenal at things that I sucked at. So he was just highlighting my shortcomings, and it bothered me because I wasn't good at it, and he hit a nerve. But why not have that guy on your team who is the fucking best at what you're terrible at? I win. I don't have to do it. And now I get the support with that. And so, but these guys were not even supposed to work with us for 2 years. We signed an agreement that they would not come on to RR for 2 years. I think Jason started around 8 months. Kevin was doing some stuff behind the scenes. I gave it up. Why? Because I don't think I'm the best. And so your confidence is great because it gives you the ability to go do things, but also you can't be blinded. Like, you should actually love your haters. People are like, don't look at the comments. I look at every single one. And they're like, why? Well, because, dude, your haters find your weaknesses and they'll expose them. So just pay attention to it. Doesn't mean you take it in, you go, oh, I better stop all I'm doing, but pay attention. Because they're exposing something that's out there. And so your confidence and your arrogance will tell you, nah, they're just haters. Okay, but they're looking for every hole in your game. So pay attention to it and learn from it and move on. So I don't dwell on it, but I'm like, okay, maybe he has a point, right? Am I willing to fix that? And I should fix it. So some of my greatest challenges I've been able to fix are actually due to the haters. I'm like, great, it's awesome. But I've watched so many people get cocky, like, I could do this on my own. This is all because of me, right? And I'll tell the story about the conferences. I had a friend recently that just got a divorce. This guy I went to high school with. Became super successful. And I use our stories a lot as it was for me and my wife. She was with him when he had nothing, and he made it. And you know what he would do is he'd come home and tell her things every single day. You're not doing this, you're not doing that. You're not cooking, you're not doing that. I'm like, when did that become the rule book, man? And he would constantly say, we have all this because of me. And like the story he says, he woke up all alone one day in a big house with a ton of money. And this was within the last year, and he's like, Dustin, I'm suicidal. I would do anything to have my wife and kids back. I would do anything. I'm like, no, you wouldn't, man, because you had it all, and you got cocky, and you thought you built this life because of yourself, and instead it's falling apart now because your wife was doing so much. Like myself, I would not be able to be here today if it wasn't for my wife taking care of our children. There's absolutely zero part of me that would be in this situation if it wasn't for her. She's the real MVP. She takes care of my 3 pride and joys every single day. She's so selfless on her goals and dreams of being a mom to support me and my goals and dreams, to support our kids and put them first, that there's no way, shape, or form I'd be here without her. But your cockiness says, oh, this is all me. I started RR. I'm the man. I was here day one. No, man, it's not. I definitely wouldn't be here without these guys, without you guys, without my wife. And so it's the confidence is like, look, be proud of yourself for having some success. It's okay to be proud of yourself. Be your cheerleader. Great job. But don't get caught up in that Kool-Aid, because that Kool-Aid could be poison. And you start poisoning yourself, and people are like, hey, dude, if you don't appreciate me, fuck off. And it's don't be a hypocrite, because you've all felt that way when you do something well and somebody else takes the credit for it. It makes you feel some type of way. And if you think that when you do it to other people, they don't feel the same way that makes you, you're crazy, right? And so I've just watched so many people crumble themselves because they think they have no blind spots. They think that they don't do anything wrong. And their success, man, because once you get to the top, it is hard to stay at the top. You have to work even harder because everybody is gunning for you. And they're gunning for everything you do. So you never want to get overconfidence in that way, but you want to be confident in, hey, I can do this. You should have that type of confidence. Anyone else?
When you made from like those tenants, what kind of like mindset were you in? Like, what made you think to take that opportunity?
Great question. For me, and I think I actually left this part out, it changed everything for me because I went from thinking I could operate at the highest level to knowing, and now I had evidence that this young, dumb kid who dropped out of college in 60 days, was maybe a C student, could operate, outthink one of the largest real estate companies in the entire United States. So that gave me the confidence, not that the confidence is the right word, it gave me the affirmation that everything I suspected about myself was true, and that every single person, regardless of what they have or don't have, we're all very, very close to each other. It's and again, cliche. It's one decision, one opportunity, one meeting, one risk that you take or don't take that really determines where you are. If I hadn't gone for that, who knows where I would be. Maybe I'd be successful, maybe I wouldn't. Maybe if I had fallen apart and I hadn't gone for it, I wouldn't have had that confidence. So it really changed everything about me, giving me that affirmation. So if you don't take the chance, you don't get the affirmation. If you don't get the affirmation, the success doesn't stack. And then if it's not stacking long enough, you become a shell of the person that you should have been.
All right, I think that's it. Let's take a 5-minute break. Make it quick. Make sure, look, if you're gonna chat with Derik, you can grab a photo, follow him on social media. Obviously, he's a part of what we do, but quick 5 minutes, get back, because then we're gonna go on to our next speaker. So thank you.
Yeah.